Imagine waking up on an ordinary day, making your coffee, staring into nothing for a moment, and suddenly realizing that you threw away something that today could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. It wasn't a scam. It wasn't a bad investment. It wasn't a market crash. It was just a simple household cleanup. This is the real nightmare lived by James Howells, a technology engineer from the United Kingdom, who in 2013 discarded a hard drive that seemed completely useless without knowing that it contained the key to one of the greatest digital fortunes in history. As you listen to this story, that treasure is still buried beneath thousands of tons of garbage inside a landfill in the city of Newport in Wales. The question is simple: how does someone make a mistake of this magnitude? And even more disturbing, why, even knowing exactly where the money is, can't he recover it? To understand this, we need to go back to the year 2009. At that time, Bitcoin was nothing more than an obscure experiment discussed in internet forums. There were no headlines, no institutional investors, no talk of digital wealth. James Howells, like many technology enthusiasts of that era, decided to test this new idea. Using his personal laptop, he began mining Bitcoin at home, something incredibly easy at the time. In just a few weeks, his computer generated thousands of units of the digital currency. In total, James accumulated around 8,000 Bitcoins, all stored in a single digital file. It wasn't physical money. It wasn't gold. It was just code, saved on an ordinary hard drive. As the years passed, the laptop eventually broke. James dismantled it, sold some of the parts, and stored the hard drive in a drawer along with other old electronic equipment. For a long time, it meant nothing. Until, in 2013, during a routine cleaning, the mistake that would change his life forever happened. James had two hard drives that looked almost identical. One was empty. The other contained a digital wallet, holding all the Bitcoins. In a brief moment of distraction, he placed the wrong hard drive into a black trash bag and took it out for disposal. Nothing seemed unusual. Nothing raised any alarm. The mistake went completely unnoticed. Months later, the price of Bitcoin began to rise. From cents, it went to tens, then hundreds, and eventually thousands of dollars per unit. That was the moment reality hit James like a physical shock. He had thrown away a fortune. Desperate, James rushed to the Newport landfill, but it was already too late. The hard drive was buried beneath deep layers of waste, soil, and debris accumulated over years. Imagine the scene. A man standing in front of a mountain of garbage, knowing that somewhere beneath his feet, just a few meters below, was a code that could have made him one of the wealthiest men in the country. From that day on, his life stopped being normal. James went from an anonymous engineer to a modern-day digital treasure hunter. But his enemy wasn't the ocean or ancient maps. It was bureaucracy, time, and the system itself. Over the past decade, he presented multiple plans to the local government to recover the hard drive. He gained support from international investors who offered to finance the excavation in exchange for a share of the recovered fortune. He proposed the use of industrial scanners, robotic arms, and even artificial intelligence systems to safely separate the waste. Every single request was denied. The official justification was always environmental risk. Digging into an old landfill could release toxic gases, contaminate the soil, and cause irreversible damage. Even so, James never accepted that answer as final. He entered legal battles, sued the city, and promised to share part of the recovered value with public funds if he were allowed to dig. Meanwhile, Bitcoin continued to rise. What in 2013 seemed like an uncomfortable mistake, over time turned into a drama valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. Today, James' plan sounds like something out of science fiction. He talks about using autonomous robots, high-precision cameras, and systems capable of identifying the exact models of the hard drive among the waste. Data recovery experts say that if the hard drive hasn't been physically destroyed, there's still a possibility that the information could be accessed. But time is not on his side. The more years pass, the smaller the chances of the device surviving. The story of James Howells is a brutal reminder of how fragile wealth can be in the digital age. Unlike physical money, the value of the future may depend on a single file, stored on an object that can be lost, damaged, or thrown away by mistake. Today, the bitcoins are still there, recorded on the blockchain, visible to the entire world, but unreachable. And the question that remains isn't how much money was lost, but how a decision made in just a few seconds can echo for the rest of a lifetime. What would you do if you knew exactly where a fortune was, but had no permission to touch it?